Welcome to the 30th installment of ESPN Honolulu Fan Friday Talk Story. I'm your host, Tiff Wells. With me today, you may remember him from Hawaii football. He was a 2010 AP All-America third-team selection at slot receiver, and then a fourth-round selection by the St. Louis Rams, not the LA Rams, the St. Louis Rams in the 2011 NFL Draft. And now he's the associate general manager for, let's get this right, Hawaii Sports Properties, Learfield IMG College here at UH. Greg Salas. Greg, welcome to Talk Story.
Hey, Tiff. How's it going? Thanks for having me on. I know that was a mouthful.
It was a mouthful, and I'm glad you're joining us. I know you're going on a vacation later on this week. Where are you going to go?
Well, that's still TBD now. There's a lot of fluidity going on with travel, I'm sure, as you're aware of. So, but was scheduled to go to Amsterdam, but we'll see. That might get postponed, or it might not get postponed. So my wife's kind of handling it, so I can kind of just focus on other things, luckily.
Well, we mentioned the associate GM title with Hawaii Sports Properties with Learfield College. What exactly do you do?
So we manage the corporate partnership program for UH Athletics, and Learfield IMG College kind of does that, has a huge footprint around the nation, handling that for a lot of universities from Alabama, Oregon, UCLA, Florida State, you kind of name it, and they kind of have some connection with those universities. So we go ahead and do that here at UH Athletics and work hand in hand with the marketing department to handle their corporate partnership initiatives.
Your UH football bio, we have to clear this up because it started when you were a freshman. It lists you at a wide receiver. And then later on in your career, you were a slot receiver. Which is harder, to be a wideout or a slot receiver?
Well, it depends on like in the run and shoot or just overall. Because kind of receiver, right? I mean, it's tougher. It depends. You know, a good offensive coordinator can match you up and create those mismatches wherever you're at, whether you're on the outside or on the inside. So, you know, there's a lot more maneuvering on the inside, and I found the freedom a little better for me. But on the outside, you got to be able to win and get separation from some of these corners. So, I think a good football player, a good receiver, can flourish on either the outside or inside for sure.
And because you started your career when June Jones was here, you ended when Greg McMackin was here. How did your role in the offense change throughout your career? Yes, it was different offenses, but how did it change?
Well, luckily we kept the same kind of run and shoot offense with Ron Lee and Coach Rolovich and Mouse Davis came along once June departed. But yeah, when I first got here, I played the X receiver, so I played on the outside behind Jason Rivers. For those of you guys, I'm sure everyone kind of remembers Jason Rivers. He was a beast, man, and had a huge impact on my career. But yeah, I was primarily at the X, and then once all those guys that kind of left, I played X. I started at the X my sophomore year, and then eventually moved to the inside, where they thought I could do a little bit more in there and be less limited than you are on the outside with some of the run and shoot. So that's kind of how I switched over. They probably thought I was more of a tight end in there, kind of a little bit bigger bodied and wasn't the traditional short and fast, quick guy in there. So I was able to use a little bit different maneuvers to kind of find my way in that offense. But yeah, that's how it started. It was on the outside and then came to the inside. And I originally actually committed as a defensive back to the University of Hawaii. So yeah, full circle. I kind of ended up everywhere, but didn't ever played it down on defense. Went strictly to offense. So
that was me my next question, because in high school you were all conference as a wideout and a DB. So as you read the playbook, the offensive playbook, defensive playbook, is one easier to pick up than the other?
Yeah, and once again, like it's hard to say. It's schematics, right? It's however you're playing. You know, in high school, I didn't really play receiver much. I might have played like 5 or 6 downs, and it was just to go deep or something. So I played most of my time at corner. So it all depends on the scheme you're at, because you can be playing defense and you can be a man-to-man team where you don't really have to know what's really going on. You know, you'll know some blitzes are happening, but you got your man. You got to stop him. In the offense, there's a lot more moving parts, but some routes can be locked. Some can have a lot more flexibility within the offense. So, you know, hard questions to answer. But you just know on offense you can have a chance to get the ball. So that's what's most important.
Signing day. I know it was a while ago. What do you remember about it, and what led you to pick UH to come out here to Manoa?
Just really happy, really excited. The dream was always to get a scholarship, and you were always kind of, this is like before, social media and all this stuff where, if you can get a scholarship, people around town kind of hear about that, and all the other teams you play against are kind of like, oh, I hear he has an offer to such and such school. It was, the information didn't flow as freely. So just like super excited and proud. I know my parents and my family were super happy for me. And to get a Division I scholarship just kind of meant the world to me. And UH was definitely the first Division I school to offer me. So I was always grateful of that and wanted to make sure I came here and did well. So, excited. That's really all you can say about it. Is I remember being happy and taking a picture with some of the other major athletes at our school. I was kind of like an afterthought more so than some of these other guys who were kind of bigger athletes than me at the time. And just being happy, being next to him, putting on the Hawaii hat, taking a picture for the Chino champion, and ready to get out to Hawaii, man, and just live life and play ball.
You're from Chino, like you said, so I have to ask, who was your team? Who was your NFL team growing up?
Ooh, the Raiders. The Raiders, big time Raiders fan. My whole family would say that, and then everyone kind of went to the Rams after that, and then 5 other teams. So my family, you can tell them they had a new flag flying every year, so it was fun in the neighborhood to talk about that. But big time Raiders fan growing up with Rich Gannon, Charlie Gardner, Tim Brown. Jerry Rice, you might have heard about him. He was a better Raider than he was a Niner. So I always mess with the 49ers fans. They're like, oh, you guys know Jerry Rice, huh? So, that was the team right there. Tyrone Wheatley, we watched them. Charles Woodson, that was a big team for us.
You mentioned the Raiders, and this is going to be a question later on, but going in your senior year here at UH, you were named one of the semifinalists for the Fred Biletnikoff Award, ironically, coincidentally, a Raider. So when you become a semifinalist of an award, guy named after one of arguably the best Raider, not just receiver, but one of the best Raiders of all time, what's going through your mind as you hear that you're a semifinalist?
It was all just kind of surreal. I didn't really focus on the accolades or anything. It was more like you wanted to be like first team all conference, right? I kind of took things as they came. I wasn't really thinking All-American or I'm going to be, the goal was to be kind of first team and just to be doing well on your own team. It's kind of like when all this was happening, I wasn't really paying too much attention to it, but you hear about it and then you do some interviews and people are kind of letting you know, hey, you're up for the award for best college receiver in the nation. And all of it was just awesome, right? It was just such an awesome experience for me to have, being out in Hawaii and a smaller school. You kind of, you relished in the fact that you're able to compete and do the same things as some of these better known people were doing at bigger universities on bigger stages. So just to be compared with those, that's the biggest thing, was always just going out there with a chip on my shoulder and proving myself and, wanting to prove to the bigger schools that you guys messed up and passed up on a player that, that was interested in your schools, obviously, but never got the time of day. So that's kind of the way I took it, going throughout that whole process.
You graduated high school in 2006. You redshirted the following fall here at UH. Was it tough to redshirt and watch the season unfold from the sidelines? And what did you learn about yourself in that redshirt season?
It wasn't that hard, to be honest. I wasn't coming here expecting to start right away. And I think that just kind of goes back to me being a little naive and not really knowing much, I would say. Just kind of, going with the flow. I didn't come here with hopes of starting or anybody promising me a starting job. I was just happy to get the scholarship. That was just one hurdle, and I was on to the next. Okay, now I'm on the team. Now it's time to make an impression and keep taking it one day at a time. So it wasn't hard for me at all. I had fun my freshman year. We hung out. We had a good group of guys that came out here with some of my best friends from back home. My friend Joey Lip got a scholarship out here as well. So it was, adjusting to island life and school and, being on your own for the first time and learning how to manage your money and doing all those types of things. So it was just a big learning curve for me. And football was obviously super important to me, but it wasn't hard for me to, especially with the talent we had here. I was looking at these guys like, man, these guys are good. So I wasn't expecting to start over any of the super talented guys we had here.
September 1st, 2007, your collegiate debut against Northern Colorado. To run through the tunnel at Aloha Stadium for the first time, what's that feeling like?
Oh, it was amazing. Finally to get to dress out for a game and suit up with everyone. I think I was still rocking number 36 as a receiver at the time, which we always had fun with, me and my friends. I'm Hispanic, I'm Mexican, so we called myself, some of my friends would call me Tres Seis out there at receiver, even though that's not even correct in Spanish, but that's what they, jokingly would say. So yeah, it was awesome. I think I even scored a touchdown that game because we were, super talented and got a big lead against them, and was able to get some playing time. And yeah, it was awesome. I mean, I remember being on cloud 9 after that game. And that was just an amazing experience for me, and to finally suit up with everybody. And yeah, amazing.
We've heard through the grapevine that you are a fan of Pokemon. Tell us when you first got into this and just how, I wouldn't say important it is to you, but how much are you a fan of Pokemon?
Well, it depends how much my new Charizard is worth here. I might be the biggest fan you've ever met. So depending on the monetary value placed on that card, I'll tell you, so you can ask me once I sell that. But no, yeah, growing up, I was a big Pokemon kid. Had a Pokemon themed birthday when I was younger. Yeah, so yeah, it's a little out of context, but yeah, huge fan of Pokemon. I look forward to showing the new cartoons to my kids when they're old enough to watch a little bit of a action-packed cartoon. But yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. I'm kind of a nerd and I know a ton about it, so it's fun to talk about it. And yeah, but I stick with the original 150 Pokemon, or 151 if you include Mew into the equation. But yeah, I stick with those. All the new stuff, I have no idea what's going on. They have like a million Pokemon now, so I'll stick with the original ones.
And as we'll stick with our football conversation here, Greg, when you go
let's stick with Pokemon. Let's stick with Pokemon.
My knowledge is nowhere near where it is on your level. When we go to that 2008 season, you guys go on the road, open the year up at Florida. To go into that game, you catch a touchdown. You're part of the only score touchdown of the game, that is. But when you kind of watch college football, you see these big venues, Power 5 facilities. Is it cool when you think back of your career and you see the Swamp, you see other venues of Power 5 schools? Is it cool when you watch TV and say, I played there, I caught a touchdown?
Yeah, 100%, and especially against that team. I mean, that team was so stacked. I think that could have been arguably one of the greatest college football teams ever assembled, with Urban Meyer and Tim Tebow. And I mean, I think they even rested, or I shouldn't say rested. I think some players might have been, something happened with some of the stuff going on there. But, I think like 7 or 8 of their starters didn't even play. And, that's just how talented that team was. So to open up the game there, yeah, that was one of the biggest games I've ever played in. I think the year before we played in the Sugar Bowl, but that was like, my first opportunity to really start and try to have an impact on a game. So, yeah, to play against those players, you're playing against future NFL stars, and there was a number of them on that team. So great opportunity. I always use those games as kind of a measuring stick for myself, because I wanted to be as good as all the players who are on these, Power 5 teams. So to go out there and compete, and then to know, okay, I have what it takes. I've gone against Joe Hayden or Janoris Jenkins, these guys who are on that squad, and competed with them. That gave me even more confidence to go into there, going into league and some other games. So yeah, always use those as a measuring stick to see and to sharpen myself.
Greg, we do need to take the break right here, so stay right there. Along with former UH football wide receiver Greg Salas, I'm Tiff Wells. You're listening to ESPN Honolulu Fan Friday Top Story. Welcome back to episode 30 of ESPN Honolulu Fan Friday Talk Story. I'm your host, Tiff Wells. With me is former All-American receiver here at UH, Greg Salas. Now, Greg, it is the 10-year anniversary of the NFL draft and you being selected in the 4th round. Did you think you had a shot to be drafted?
Definitely after my junior year. I kind of realized, what I had done my junior year. I obviously put up a lot of numbers and a lot of stats. And then the success that some of our other receivers, Davone Bess, were having in the league. I definitely knew that everything was kind of trending in that direction. I definitely kicked it into another notch trying to go into my senior year to achieve that. Where I would be drafted, I just thought I might have a chance at being drafted. But once, my senior year was kind of 3/4 of the way through, and I was kind of having, my goal was to at least kind of do what I did that year, and I was able to have even more success my senior year. I kind of knew that, now there's a big opportunity of me being drafted and being drafted relatively early and not in the later rounds. So, was super excited about that. And I always still get goosebumps thinking about it and going back to my senior year and draft day, and that whole process was just an amazing experience for me.
You mentioned Davone Bess and playing behind guys like Bess and Ryan Grice-Mullen, Jason Rivers, CJ Hawthorne, those group. What did you learn most from them as you went from, backup to a starter to one of the best receivers in college your senior season?
Man, so much. Almost everything, quite honestly. I like I said, didn't play a ton of receiver in high school. I knew I can catch the ball well. And I think, June saw that, and some of the offensive coaches on the team then saw that ability. But man, going into my sophomore year, I just watched film on them, especially moving into the slot, moving on the outside. Those guys would always, we'd hang out, outside of football, and we'd go out and hang out, play video games, do all those things that college kids do. And, that we would always talk ball. It was always about ball, no matter what. It was kind of, always football focused. And those guys just instilled a lot of confidence in me. And just watching their moves off the line, how they ran routes, what they were looking for, especially in this offense, because you saw how they did it, and they did it at such a high level. You just wanted to replicate and be able to do what they were doing. So although the moves were different and the way that we accomplished getting open was a bit different than some of those other guys, just learned a ton from them. They were super instrumental in my development.
Do you have a favorite football memory playing for UH?
Oh man. I don't know if I have a specific memory. I have some games, where I'm just like, man, I look back and I'm like, dang, I really, had 200 yards in a game, I did some things where I was like, in the moment, you're not really thinking about it. You're kind of in the zone, and you're just feeling it, and you're getting open, and you're making plays, and everything's working right. And then afterwards, you kind of reflect on it, like, wow, that was amazing. So I think just like my whole senior year and junior year, my senior year more so because we were a better team, and more people were involved. So I can't pinpoint like a favorite player or anything, but there's certainly some games where I'm just like, man, I'd like to go back and relive that game one more time, because that was so much fun, and the fans were awesome, and teammates were awesome, and those are the ones who really make it special.
All right, we talked about this being the 10th year anniversary of you being drafted. So we go back to the draft, round number 4, pick 112. When you hear them announce your name and you're a St. Louis Ram, what's going through your mind?
Oh, there's a lot. You kind of they call you almost like, as soon as the other ones, they're like, before they even announce it, you're on the phone with them, and your family's there with you, and everyone's yelling, shut up, but everyone knows that was it. That's the call. Like, it's a 314. It's a St. Louis area code, right? And then just relief because there's so much unknown, and you're just waiting and, wanting your name to be called. And finally, when you know where you're going, who your teammates are going to be, the offense you're going to be in, that the wait is over. That was the biggest part, was just the anticipation leading up to it. So once I finally got that, it was, popping champagne bottles and having fun. I might have shed a tear or two, but, you do a couple phone calls with, you assume like, oh, you do it, but you actually have to do some media stuff right afterwards. But it was a weird year though too, because it was a lockout year. So you couldn't go meet with your coaches right away. You couldn't go to the facilities. You couldn't do all those normal things that you typically do as a draft pick. It was, we love you. We glad we got you, but we'll be in touch. Stay ready. And then that was really the only call you get to have with the team, right? You get to talk to the head coach, the offensive coordinator, and the GM briefly, and then that's it. And then you're waiting until the lockout's over. So it was super fun. It was something I'll always remember, and I'm happy I had the experience, and it's something me and my family will always treasure for the rest of our lives, for sure.
There is a show that is called Hey Rookie, Welcome to the NFL, and there's always moments for players when they have this is your welcome to the league moment, or this is your welcome to the team moment. Did you ever have a welcome to the NFL moment as a Ram, or as a member of any of the other teams you were with?
Oh yeah. I think the thing that always sticks out to me was, I finally start to play on the Rams, and I become a starter, and we play at Lambeau Field, and we're playing against like my childhood idol is like Charles Woodson, and I'm lined up one-on-one with him in the slot, and it's like, holy, that's Charles playing against Charles Woodson. Pardon my French. Yeah. So it's like, whoa, I grew up watching this guy play. Huge fan of his growing up, and all of a sudden I'm playing with him, or when I went to the Patriots, and the first day I'm there, Tom Brady comes and introduces himself to me, and knows exactly who I am, and and I thought he was kicking me off the table so he can get his ankle spatted, that's what can happen with vets and stuff, but none of that. He comes up and introduced himself to me, and that's kind of like, oh, it's Tom Brady, and he's talking to me right now, and I just got here. So yeah, there was a couple of those moments where you just kind of meet some of your childhood idols and people you've looked up to and wanted to emulate, and then all of a sudden you're playing against them on Sunday or playing with them on Sunday. So some really cool moments with that. And yeah, those are probably the two biggest ones: Charles Woodson and Tom Brady.
When we see on TV after the game, we'll see players, at least before COVID began, that we saw, jersey swaps or gloves being exchanged or helmets, whatever. Did you get any sort of, trades with any other players? And if so, did one or two maybe stick out a little bit more than, say, the others?
No, I didn't have too many of those where I was going out there and exchanging jerseys with other players. That's kind of started more recently than in the past. And that's become like a huge thing that players do and collect jerseys and stuff. But that wasn't something that we really did too much after the games. I know some of the bigger players would definitely do that, but that wasn't something I actively participated in for sure. So, I wish I kind of would have. There have been some players that I wish I could have gotten some of their jerseys, but yeah, I didn't do too much of that.
What was the most difficult part about being in the league?
Difficult. I don't know about. Just the overall demand year round, right? It's a grind, and it's when you're outside of the facility on the off season, you really gotta grind. You gotta take care of yourself and make sure you're doing the right things, and make sure you come back prepared. But yeah, it's hard to really pinpoint something that's really the most difficult part. Just the competition. The level of competition is a huge difference between playing ball on Saturdays in college and then going and being a really good football player on Sundays. Is just a big level and it's a big upstep in the level of talent there for sure. So that was probably one of the other biggest things for sure. Getting used to the speed of the game. It is just so much faster in the NFL than it is in college.
One of the teams you played for, the Buffalo Bills, 2016, was where you happened to score the lone touchdown of your career. Take us through that entire play, from the play call to you catching the ball to going into the end zone.
Yeah, it was one of our third down packages plays that we had, and I knew it was going to be kind of this angle route where I'm kind of the main target on that one. So excited to get the call going into it. That first read obviously wasn't open, and he had some pressure in his face, but with Tyrod, he's able to make a lot of plays on his feet. So we always practice scramble drill, especially when you have a mobile quarterback like that. And as soon as I saw him kind of break out, I immediately cut my route off and try to find an open spot. And the safeties were creeping low, so I was able to get past them pretty quickly. And yeah, wide open. And that was kind of just a culmination of things too for me. Big moment. My parents were there. My wife was there. So it was a nice dinner afterwards for sure. We ended up losing the game, but that was a big play in the game where we were able to get back in it and have a chance to win. So, that's definitely a memory I'll always carry with me as well.
To have them in the stands, to watch that live, what's the feeling? What's the emotion? How cool was it to have that happen?
Oh, it was awesome. It was awesome. I knew my dad was like overwhelmed with emotion because the parents, they know, you talk to your parents every day, or at least I was talking to my parents, daily, always keeping them up to date on what's going on. And they knew all the injuries I had to overcome in my career, and, a lot of soft tissue injuries and some other major injuries. So to finally see, all the hard work and the years I've put in being in the NFL, after 5 or 6 years, and then finally to have that moment where, I earned a starting job, I'm contributing on offense and finally starting to see some real results, and kind of the fruit of my labor start to pay off. To see that happen and it come all to fruition there was a huge moment for me and for my parents, and the fact that they were there to enjoy it with me. It was awesome. It was awesome. We had a good dinner that night.
Did you get to keep the football?
Yes. Ran out. You couldn't take that football away from me. Yeah, I still have that football. I have some pictures as I did a front flip into the end zone. So I have some really great. I maximized that moment for sure. I was like, this is it. I'm about to score, and yeah, once I did, and I realized there's no flags, it was pure joy and elation for sure for me.
You're from California. You played college ball here at Hawaii, and it seemed as if you played for most of the pro teams that were in cold weather cities. So we have to ask, just how cold are those games in Buffalo come late December?
Oh, it gets cold. Anyone who says it's not cold is lying. Playing in Baltimore in the winter, playing at a lot of these places in the winter is really cold. But, when you're in the game, you're not thinking about it, right? You're hot, you're warm, you're running around, you're trying not to get your head knocked off, or you're trying to knock off somebody else's head. So, and they do a good job. You got your big jackets. You got your, they pamper you. You got your heated seats, your heated helmet stations. So, it's not too much of a worry. They do a good job of taking care of the players there. So, but yeah, in pre-games, you're definitely worried about it. Everyone's kind of asking, how cold is it out there? And then they'll be like, it's cold. And that's when damn, I gotta, maybe I should put an extra layer of underwear on or something, because it's going to be a cold game. So yeah, it gets cold there, but nothing you can't handle.
You're an alum of the program, but you're also a fan of the program. So as you kind of saw that 2020 season for UH football under first-year head coach Todd Graham, they get the bowl victory against Houston. How would you rate that 2020 season for UH?
It was a huge season. You can't understate the impacts that COVID had on the season, right? I mean, the preparation, it was always going to be which teams were mentally tough and which ones could grasp and knew the concepts that their coaches were teaching them. And, to have Coach Graham and them come in brand new and have a new system that they're implementing, and to have success that they were having with, without the meeting times, without, all the spring ball and all the stuff that comes with it, or training camp that you need, to have all that shortened and to go out there and play and have success was huge. So I'm really looking forward to year 2. And, they were able to really get some guys going, and we kind of know who are some stars going into this next season, like Calvin Turner and stuff. So, I'm excited to see what they can do with the full off season and with less restrictions on them. And hopefully they're able to even do better than they did last year. But yeah, it was fun to watch them. I was lucky enough to be in the stands, everyone separated, but there's some of the sections that you're able to be a part of if you were helping out on game day. So it was fun to watch them in person.
Who's the better cook in the family, your mom or your dad?
Growing up, I would have easily said my mom, but my dad's picked up his skills in his later age. He's become quite the little barbecue smoke and grill guy. So yeah, he does some cooking now, and my mom's able to take a break after cooking for the 3 kids for however many years. So I'll just say even. You know what? I'll say my mom. My mom's better cook. I love you, Mom.
If there was one dish you want her to make, what would it be and why?
Oh, whenever she comes out, whenever they're in town here, I always have her make enchiladas because, I have to get a good Mexican fix. Whenever I'm in California, I'm definitely eating Mexican food until I cannot eat it anymore. And then when my parents come out here, I always have her make a dish or two of something, right? Just so I can have some home cooking that I was used to when I was living at home with my parents. So enchiladas, I always have her make the enchiladas.
Last one for you here, Greg. Your fastest 40 time was what? And if you were to be timed in the 40 right now, what do you think it would be?
Oh, fastest was like 3.9, 3.8 maybe. No, my fastest probably was 4.4. And if you time me now, I would probably just pull a hamstring and not make it across the finish line. So I'll say 5 flat now. No, I think I could go out there and run easily a 4.6 maybe. Yeah, maybe on a good day, but I probably won't be able to walk afterwards.
That's exactly how I would feel, Greg. This has been so much fun. We really appreciate the time you've given us today. Thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, no worries, Tiff. Thanks for having me on, man, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
For sure. For Greg Salas, as well as the rest of us here at ESPN Honolulu, I'm Tiff Wells saying thank you so much for joining us here on the 30th edition of ESPN Honolulu Fan Friday Talk Story. Until next time, wear that mask, stay safe, don't pull that hamstring, and be socially distant.